Okay. All right. It's 8:10. I think we won't wait anymore. So to the small group here, thank you for joining us on this Talent at Web3's first by invite roundtable discussion. My name is Elena Chow, and I'll be your moderator tonight. So just a bit about Talent at Web3. Talent at Web3 was launched just last week, actually last Monday. As the founders, myself and Curve, were both here on the call, saw an increasing interest in the world of Web3 as a possible job and career for many. So the aim of the community is actually to share knowledge and to build networks for these aspiring Web3 talent, most of them probably currently in Web2 jobs or even fresh graduates. So I guess there are some of you among here as well. And I guess tonight I'm super honored to be here with Shaun Heng, who is currently the head of Spartan Labs, and Jon Russell, who is a partner at crypto.com. Now the session is probably going to be an hour long, of which the first 30 to 40 minutes will be more of a fireside chat format, and the remaining maybe 20 to 30 minutes will be Q&A. So I mean, at any one time, do drop your questions in the chat throughout the session. Now, we meant this to be a virtual roundtable, which was actually, so it was a by invite curated list. We wanted to make it small. So I would like to, of course, invite everyone here to, if possible, turn on the camera. And we'll go around to introduce ourselves, maybe in about 30 seconds, like kind of 30-second introduction. Just your name, maybe the role and the company that you're at, or the last company. And what do you hope to get out of tonight's session? Because since it's such an intimate one, we would love to be able to tailor, not just the questions, the answers, as well as the discussion around what you wish to get out of tonight's session. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to start this round of introduction, and maybe we can begin with the guest. Can we begin with? Let me just look at my screen. Can we begin with Shaun Teo?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Shaun. Going to be fresh graduate. I just finished my final paper today at NUS. Really interested to find out more, and I intend to work in the Web3 space. So right now I'm currently working at a small company that builds infra and visualization stuff for Filecoin. So things like your governance and how you see the tokens being distributed, your daily burn rate. Yeah, so I'm currently working on that, and then in the future, looking to pursue a career in Web3. Yeah.
Thank you. What do you hope to get out of tonight's session?
Get more insights on what the Web3 space is like, because I think from my past other experiences were more Web2, so I wanted to see how that compares and what else Web3 can offer, and what will it be like working in Web3, because I understand it's a very new space, so probably a huge jump from Web2.
Okay, thank you, Shaun. Next on my screen is actually Dogan.
Sure, thanks for the invite again, Elena. I'm Dogan, you can call me DG, that's probably easier. I'm currently based in Beijing, but I'm Singaporean. I'm pursuing my master's at Tsinghua right now, but I'm also working part-time with Glints, which is my previous company, the chief of staff at Glints. I have been interested in crypto for a while. I think I joined the crypto class in 2019, 2020. I have a 1 month break after graduation. So at that point in time, I'm also going to work for NFT hedge fund. One of the NFTs that I pitched as part of the interview process was Moonbirds. So I'm quite interested in that space. And for today, I guess I'm most interested in understanding from the veterans what kind of careers you can pursue, especially as non-technical talent in the space. And of course, if you have a view on how the crypto industry will build for the future, we'd love to hear that as well.
Okay, let me go to Jerry. Jerry?
Hi everyone, I'm Jerry. I'm based in Singapore. I work at an agency called Club Asia. We work with influencers and content creators, working with YouTube, TikTok, and all the tech platforms, all the Web2 tech platforms. That is looking for ways into Web3. It is obviously rocking the creator economy that I'm in many ways, and I hope to have to learn tonight. I'm a learner. I bought Bitcoin first when it was $300, but then I sold it at $500. So I hope to learn how to hodl at least from tonight's session. So please teach me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. And we move on to Scott and then Jason after that. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Elena. Hi, everyone. I'm Scott. So I actually was, my previous company actually worked closely with Elena. It's a healthcare startup doing software for radiology. And I was a VP of growth there, heading up business development and sales. I actually started being interested in crypto in about, I think, it was really at the start of COVID when we had the V-shaped crash and then everything came charging back. That got me interested, and I've just fallen down a rabbit hole. Been taking more and more interest in it. So yeah, I think my interest still lies more on the DeFi side. Potentially too much of a boomer myself to really understand NFTs. Yeah, so what I'm hoping to get out of tonight is just, I guess, maybe coming at job opportunities in the space from this different perspective, especially for mid-career professional. Just seeing, yeah, what are the opportunities and how I could position myself for such.
Thank you, Scott. We move on to Jason.
Hey, Elena, can you hear me?
Is
it good now?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, man. Just a quick shout out to my man, Jon, and also to Shaun, right? Shaun, great job on Chain Degree, amazing stuff. I will not take you on my bachelor's night because obviously you will take away all the girls, but very clearly, very happy to be here with everyone. Elena is a big fan of mine, and happy to be here to kind of join the session. Bit of background, been a banker my whole life, and I moved into fintech in 2019 with this company called MDEC, which is a foreign exchange focused solution provider. I mean, I moved at a time of when fintech was beginning to be a buzzword, and then now obviously the Web3 verse is gonna be the new buzzword, right? So I'm just thinking that tonight it'd be good to hear from everyone on the panel on your views, right? Moving into this space, Jon, I know you were previously a writer, and you are still a writer, and moving into crypto.com as a partner, and Shaun, obviously from your own personal experiences, would be good to hear, those motivational factors and also what made you make the change. Thanks, Elena.
Thank you. So we have Natalie and then Zai next. Yeah. Hi, Natalie.
Oh, hi, everyone. Yeah, thanks, Elena, for the invite. I'm actually from the civil service, so I'm totally new to Web3, and I just saw that there's a lot of hype on the news, and I just came across this Telegram group chat about Web3 and just joined, and there's this session tonight about career prospect. I'm just here to ground, and main objective is really to find out what's the hype about it and why are people so fascinated about it. Yeah, so looking forward to everyone sharing.
Thanks, and over to Zai and then Tim, who just joined us, and after that we can begin our session. Yeah. Hi, Zai.
Oh, hi. Yeah, my screen name. That's my screen name. My name is CK. So I have been a tech entrepreneur. I have been in the transport space as well as the education space, and more recently took a keen interest in Web3. Still very new. Learning more through the NFT realm, and looking to getting involved in NFT project as well. Just starting on it. So hope to find out more from people in the community.
And I think we move on to Tim, who just joined us. Tim? Oops, maybe.
Hi guys. Hi. Sorry, I'm actually at an event out here, but my name is Tim. I'm part of a Sequoia-backed project called Sign, and I'm the COO. I've been in Singapore for 17 years. And, I'm a serial entrepreneur. Just startup back.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks. So, and then I guess last but not least, we're going to, I guess, get the speakers to introduce themselves, but more so specifically, if you could share more about what you currently do in Web3 and how you got started. Could I get Shaun to get the ball rolling as we begin the session proper?
Sure. Thanks for the invite, Elena. I think very excited to share my experience. I wouldn't say we are veterans in the space. I think the space is still evolving very quickly at this point. But yeah, I mean, just a very quick sort of background about myself. I started my career in banking. I was doing investment banking at Standard Chartered. Felt I wasn't learning as much as I needed to, and then move on to RateMart to help them lead corporate development back in 2015, which resulted in the acquisition by Lazada, right? And so post the acquisition, I sort of caught an entrepreneurship bug from the founders at RateMart and decided to try entrepreneurship on my own. It's a very tough and lonely journey, as I think a lot of you could attest to. But I think my encounter with crypto sort of came about in 2017 when I was trying to raise capital for my own business, and the whole buzzword of like ICO was thrown around, and everyone was raising like huge amount of money very quickly. I was sort of trying to figure out whether that's like an opportunity for us to also go down that route. But beyond that, I think because I was running a mobile ordering and payment sort of business called Etsy back then, that payments portion really sticks with me because we see the likes of Stripe and Adyen and all these different like incumbents sort of taking a lot of margins from the payment side, and blockchain just provided a technology that actually allows payments to be done in a much more seamless manner, right? Removing the intermediary. So there was like a seed being planted back in 2017. I didn't do an ICO in the end, but that was sort of that sort of introduction into the whole crypto space that got me really excited. Fast forward to 2020, COVID happened. I decided to shut down the business at Etsy, and it was then when I was introduced to the guys at CoinMarketCap. For those who are not aware, CoinMarketCap is probably the largest traffic site for all things related to cryptocurrency in the world right now. So when I joined, we were probably about 80 million page views a month, which I thought was insane for a company that size, right? And I joined them to head up growth and operations on that front. And my job is also to figure out where the opportunities of growth are at CoinMarketCap. Fast forward a year and a half later, we grew the page views from 80 million a month to more than 3 billion page views a month, right? Obviously not everything it's to my team's credit, but also the whole industry just growing as a whole. And then fast forward a bit more, I think I was figuring out that I realized that the space was evolving so quickly within the crypto space that I decided to spend more time building and just going back to my roots of like building, and Spartan sort of came calling, where for those who are not aware, Spartan has been around. Spartan Group has been around for the past, I'll say, since 2017, 2018. And it started as an advisory business by a team of investment bankers that focuses on helping crypto projects raise capital for one, or even do M&A related deals. So the most recent deal that we did on Spartan's front was to help Gojek get one of their crypto assets called coins.ph get acquired by the ex-CFO of Binance. So Casper and Melody are the partners at Spartan, and they subsequently expanded the business to the investment arm, where now we have about $500 million in asset under management deploying across both liquid assets and also projects building the space. But I think one thing that was always at the back of their head is how do they actually start building more in Web3, right? Because they have so much first-hand information of like what's happening within the space, and the question is, how do we find the right people to sort of be putting their money where their mouth is, right? And start building more and start contributing more to the space. And that was really like that birth of the ideation phase of what Spartan Labs came to be. So fast forward, I met up with the guys at Spartan, felt I really resonated, clicked with the partners, And they brought me in to help lead up this $100 million venture building studio called Spartan Labs. The goal is really to just be building in Web3, right? I think the space is evolving so quickly that sometimes there's so much capital going on, but not enough key projects, not enough good projects being built at this point in time. A lot of projects right now is still like copy pasting of different projects across different chains and stuff. So my sort of mandate is also to have a broader view of what's happening within the space. And I like to reference the team that I'm building as like a special ops teams of like the best engineers, the best product people, the best designers, the best growth people. And together we sort of build more within the space when we sort of figure out where the different gaps are within the ecosystem. And on that day itself, we can start building and start shipping products within the space. So yeah, that's sort of my background to where I am right now. Very excited to share more about how do you think about that transition from Web 2 to Web 3, and also some of the our views, our limited views of what's happening in the space, given that the whole ecosystem is still maturing, it's still at a very nascent state, but lots of exciting things happening. Yeah.
Thanks, Shaun. We'd like to hear from Jon now about what you currently do in Web3 and how you got started.
Sure, happy to. So, hey guys, thanks for having me here. I hope my experience can help. I'm a bit of an oddball, and you'll probably find out as I start talking. But essentially, I work at Crypto.com Capital, which is the investment fund of Crypto.com. So the big exchange company that's out there. Hopefully, you guys have heard of it. We have a fund, and we invest in crypto projects across the board, across the world too. The fund was launched about 9 months ago. We've done about 50 deals so far, ranging from sort of the more technical side, cross-chain kind of platforms and tooling, to the more consumery stuff like play-to-earn gaming guilds, NFT platforms. Essentially, we're looking for really interesting products that either raise the bar on the kind of services that you can see in the crypto space, or adding new kinds of services that are bringing in new people, new audiences. So the idea is crypto as it is a really cool space, but I think we all know that there's not been that sort of killer app yet. So we're out there trying to find those apps that could do that. Prior to joining Crypto.com, so like Shaun said, we're relatively new to the industry. I joined in January. So prior to that, I spent 10 years as a tech journalist in Southeast Asia. Most notably, I was at TechCrunch for 5 years. That's how I got into crypto, actually. I went to meet a company in 2017 who I knew really, really well. They said, we're doing an ICO. I thought, what the fuck is an ICO? This is a crazy thing to do. Why are you guys doing this? I sat down with them for a drink, and they rolled out all these guys from the Ethereum Foundation, who basically taught me through how Ethereum could work, what a DAO would be. And my mind was kind of blown, because I thought this is really, really crazy kind of stuff. So on the train home, I was a little bit pissed, and I bought some ETH. I think it was about $20 each, and I watched it grow, and it was just crazy. And then around about 2018, I had some offers to go work in crypto on a full-time basis, but I wasn't quite sure then, and so I didn't actually bite the bullet then. And I think I ended up working for a paid media platform here in Southeast Asia, and after we launched the product, built our audience, I was thinking what I could do next, and that was when I thought, a good time to move. So that's kind of how I got here.
So thanks, Shaun. Thanks, Jon, for the background. Now, I think the audience here will be interested to know, going by the introductions earlier. So what were your considerations, when you decide to take on this Web3 job? Perhaps maybe Jon, you might want to go first. Like, what were some of the factors that you considered, right, before you took on the...
Sure. It's going to sound weird, but I didn't actually think that much, because basically I've owned crypto, and I owned a Bitcoin back in 2015. Unfortunately, not as much as I probably should have owned, right? but I've been sort of aware of the space. I met people in the space, right? So it didn't feel so risky to me. I think for me, it was like, this is an opportunity that if I don't take this job now, am I going to look back on it and think I should have done? And the answer was yes, right? So perhaps I had the wrong kind of approach, right? But for me, it's like, if it's a job that's going to get me out of bed, I'm going to be excited, there's going to be energy on my side, then I'm all in. So for me, it was quite easy, actually, to be honest with you.
Okay. What about Shaun?
I wouldn't say I've like the best story. I probably lucked out on that front too, right? I think like I was saying, I think post my sort of stint at Etsy, I was sort of figuring out what I want to do next, and CoinMarketCap was actually I think, to be honest, I joined CMC not because it was in Web3 or in crypto, but mainly because I think it was just such a beautiful business model that I saw at that point in time where, you know, with a very lean team, they managed to build such a profitable and such a powerful business in the space that for me, I was just chasing after the human capital rather than the capital itself. So I was very excited to be working with people who are building in CMC. And I think one thing led to the other. I think once I'm inside that rabbit hole, just never look back, right? I mean, there are obviously opportunities in fintech and Web2, but it's just not as fast and not exciting as what's happening. I think the reason why it sort of attracted me even further down the rabbit hole is you're actually in sort of that driving seat of trying to really drive and make sense of what Web3 actually means, right? And that means Web3 means different things to different people. But I think it's really that opportunity for us to sort of drive that narrative and be part of that narrative, which I think that excited me more than anything else. And so I think it's really about, you know, that starting point of me getting to CMC and then decided that, you know, I'm never going to leave the industry and just try to figure out where is that best place for me to learn in the space. And once I stopped sort of growing within CMC, I knew that I needed to find a place where I could learn from, and Spartan just provided that you know, awesome launchpad for me to sort of go further down that rabbit hole.
I think it's crazy. I mean, like CMC at the time, right, was this company was run by like what? How many people? 4 or 5 people, right?
No, I mean, when I joined, we were about 30 people, and I joined as part of the acquisition by Binance, right? So
Okay.
back in April 2020, I was sort of brought in to help run the entire like transition and acquisition by Binance from CMC's perspective, and it was like a $400 million acquisition for a team of like 30 people, right? And doing like very healthy sort of P&L. And for me, that was really what attracted me in, to be able to learn from these guys that are located all around the world, you know, completely decentralized, building a model that building a business that everyone sort of go to every single day. And I think that's just, you know, you can't find that in many different places. And I think that was really what sort of brought me in.
Right. I mean, seems, I guess, you know, we all make decisions differently. You know, Jon was kind of like, okay, I'm all in here. Shaun was kind of, oh, it happens serendipitously, you know, in a way. But maybe to the audience here, given that you guys have had, I don't know, a few months, I think Shaun a bit more of experience, and also you've probably been interviewing people and, you know, getting people into Web3. What would you, you know, what can you share with the audience in terms of, you know, considerations for them as they're entering a Web3 job, right? What should be factors for consideration? May not be yours, but maybe an advice, right, for the audience.
Maybe I can go first. I have like these 3 filtering criteria that maybe Jason have heard of doing my podcast at Chain Debrief. But I think beyond that, I'll share that 3 questions later on as like my filtering questions. But beyond that is really, I think Web3 is such a new space that you can't really call yourself a veteran. You can't really put yourself on a CV and say, look, I have 5 years of experience or 10 years of experience in blockchain and cryptocurrency, right? More so in metaverse and like, you know, NFTs. So I think it's really more about what you're actually contributing to the space at this point than just a pure CV itself. CV will probably get you, a good CV will probably get you like that first interview, right? But what will really seal the deal at the end of the day is really what you have actually contributed to the space, how much you've actually contributed, how passionate you are in the space itself. So I think sort of going into that 3 questions, the first question that I usually ask like candidates or even anyone that's interested to join the space, it's what is like your favorite degen story? Because I think from that itself, you know how passionate, how interested this person is. And the story may be about yourself, it may be about someone else that you heard of, but it's just about how much you actually understand about what degen actually means and how plugged in you are to the space itself. The second question is, what's your favorite NFT project or GameFi project and why? Right, and I think that's a very important question because NFT GameFi, to be honest, has only been around for 12 months or 15 months at most, right? And so, if you're able to really succinctly answer the question of like what is that favorite project, and I think that also shows how fast you are evolving in the space itself. Yeah, if you are still stuck in the narrative of I only know about XRP, I only know about even Dogecoin and Shiba Inu coin. That's like a 24 months ago story, right? It's not relevant at this point anymore. So you want to be able to understand like what these guys are doing. When you talk about moonbirds, I think when you know that these people are like there's a chuckle in the eye and like people know about it, that these guys are actually staying on top of things and like what's happening within the space. And the third question is what DAO are you part of, right? And for those who are not aware, DAO is like decentralized autonomous organization. And so now it's so simple to join a DAO. And the point is, I want to know how much you're actually contributing to the space and not just observing on the side, right? So if someone is able to very succinctly sort of like, or very elaborately describe these 3 questions with a lot of passion, with a lot of context, with a lot of information, they are probably already at the top 1% of like people who actually knows much about what's happening in the space, right? So that will sort of seal the deal for you at the end of the day when you want to get a job within Web3 itself. Yeah, so that's sort of my gating questions, my filtering questions.
I'm not sure I have anything to add, actually. I mean, you just absolutely knocked out of the park there, Shaun. I mean, you're absolutely right. I think, someone like so on the fund where I work, there's a lot of people who've worked in like banking or on the consulting side or whatever, right? But actually that paints a really false picture of what it takes to work in crypto, because as Shaun said, it's what you know and what you've done, right? And in some cases, there are people who've worked on that side in sort of very, very good, I guess, jobs you would call them, right? And they maybe don't understand the in the weeds of how crypto actually works. So I think when we're hiring people, we really look for someone who understands enough about crypto that is clear that they've got some skin in the game, but then they also understand that they don't know everything, right? Because nobody does. So I don't think there's any single person. I mean, maybe at Spartan there are some folks who do, right? But most of the time there's areas that you know really, really well, areas that you don't know as well, right? So you have to one, be able to say that in very honest terms, as you don't know about one area, and also you have to have the interest to actually improve your knowledge on that area too. So I think we're looking for someone who obviously is serious about crypto, so doesn't have to probably put their own capital in. They might own some coins and NFTs and all that kind of stuff. They have some decent understanding of the areas that they're really keen on, but they also are honest enough to say, I need to learn more about this or about that, right? And I think those are some of the, I guess it's really hard to say what kind of characteristics of those things are, but that's what we're looking for in a candidate. So I think it's actually really hard, because I've been helping some friends of mine who've worked in like tech to get into crypto, and it's actually not that easy, because you have to find a way on your CV or some way to sort of let companies know that you know about crypto. Obviously, but you have got that experience at a bank or as in a startup or whatever. So I think it's actually quite kind of hard. But I mean, personally, I look for someone who I don't really care so much what they've done. It's like, what do you know? And also, what's the reason that you want to come here, right? I think those are quite critical pieces too.
Yeah, thanks, Jon and Jon, for that. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat. And for those who just joined us, This is a virtual roundtable, so it's meant to be small and intimate. And we encourage you to just turn on your video if it's possible. Now, I guess the next discussion point is, maybe we would like to understand how different is your job. Both of you came from a Web 2, job, and now in Web 3. And I think most of us here are currently in Web 2 as well. So how different is your job in Web 2 versus Web 3, right? Any one of you can go first.
Yeah, I can probably take a crack at this first. I think the main difference is that you are working with a bunch of really young people right from the start. Like my colleagues are, and they are some of the smartest people, right? People who have just either waiting to go into uni, who have just graduated. And that's really the age group who really gets like crypto. And maybe they got in for the wrong reasons. Maybe they got in because they had some spare cash and they sort of aped into one of these coins and it sort of boomed last year, right? But these are really the people that are working with right now. Like I'm considered like old in Web3, and but I think that's the fun part of it, because you get different people with different sort of mindset, with different culture, with different ways of approaching solutions. I think as the whole industry evolve and like mature over time, for sure you need more stability. But now it's really where everyone's just throwing things on the wall and seeing what sticks to a certain extent, for good or bad. But I think it's really that kind of fun, energetic vibe, the hustler mentality that really attracted me in. So I think that's really one part, right? Like the age group of people who are actually very plugged into Web3 right now are really your young bunch. And number two, I think the pace of iteration, the pace of growth within the space is just moving so quickly that it's really hard to keep up sometime, right? You have, I think at least in the last year itself, you have so many different sort of like teams happening. You in beginning of year, you have like this whole metaverse. I would say it started with like NFT profile pics, right? Body was probably 1 year old, right? And so if you sort of see how that the whole evolution of that cycle, in 2021, you have like NFT getting really hot in like Q1. Then you have GameFi, play to earn sort of ecosystem maturing in Q2. Then in Q3, you have like DeFi 2.0 with like Olympus DAO and all this kind of like, new innovations on that DeFi side of things coming in. Then Q4 is a bit of that loud period, but then again, you see like, metaverse thesis getting a lot stronger, a lot more people building in that space. And within one short span of like 12 months, you have 4 different sort of like verticals forming up. What's going to happen in 2022, I'm not sure. But I think that just shows how fast the space is evolving and growing over time. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. My previous jobs, I was fortunate because I had pretty fun jobs where it was a different day every day, right? So I did different things on every day. And I think there's parallels between working in journalism as I did and investing. But I think actually it depends on the kind of role. So I talk to a bunch of people inside the company because I'm nosy and I always want to know what other people are doing. And on the product side, the guys that are building out the actual apps that people use, actually they're not always like super crypto degen, right? Oftentimes they don't actually use crypto that much. So I think there are actually, it depends on the kind of role that you're going for. But I think in sort of big tech companies that are coming through, there's actually a lot of appetite for folks who've worked at, say, Google or Facebook, or have been like a PM. They don't need to be like crazy into crypto. Obviously that sort of helps because that makes you a better fit for the job. But I think there are jobs that are actually not that different to sort of what you'd find in other tech companies. So I think it depends on your appetite for getting out of your comfort zone, I guess. I think like Shaun, I have the same thing where most of the people I work with are a lot younger than me, like 10 years plus probably, which is interesting for me. But I think there's also plenty of folks who they don't want that kind of role, right? They want to be involved in like building apps, building out payment, doing BD or whatever the kind of roles that you sort of have. So I think there's a lot of there's a level of like I say, appetite that you've got, I think.
So I guess it's a good segue into probably the next question about jobs and talent, right? Since we're talking about this, like how, what is your take on how jobs and talent will continue to evolve in the future for Web3? Especially, I think one of you asked about mid-career, if you can touch on mid-career as well. So the involvement in a way of jobs and talent, and maybe a little bit on the mid-career side.
You want to go first, Shaun?
Yeah.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah? Or should we? Or we can actually change it up. I don't know. I can go first, actually.
Yeah, sure.
So I think it's crazy. Like I get people messaging me every day, right? Maybe 2 or 3 people every day, which doesn't sound like a lot, but over a month, that's like, a lot of folks, right? So I think there's an incredible appetite for these kind of jobs. I think, again, it depends on exactly what you want to do. So if you want to be like a PM or working on the BD side of these roles, I don't think it's that difficult to get those jobs. You got to have, it's just like working for Facebook or Google or other companies out there. I think if you want the crazy kind of job, that's where you need to sort of improvise. And I think that's where, as Shaun said, the kind of hiring, the kind of ways that we hire people are not always the same, right? So again, we're looking for like, do you go to events? And so I think getting out there, I think, being involved in the community, either, as Shaun said, in like a DAO or, owning tokens or owning NFTs or going to events, I think that's the kind of proof that we're seeking. So I think job seekers now are thinking about how they can, show that they're clearly interested in this space. And you read about, I think a lot of companies say they sort of hire from the user base that they've got, right? So if you're in a Discord channel or a Telegram channel and you're particularly active, that's a good way to sort of get into. I think we've got a bunch of folks at crypto.com that have got in that way. So I think there's a whole different spectrum for how you're hired. I think where you're based is not as important as it was previously too. So there's lots of options. I think what you have to do is basically just show the person that you're keen. And I think that's very different to what it was previously, where it was like, show that you can do the job based on what you've done previously. Actually, that's not really the same now. It's like, show you've got the appetite, show you know the right people. So I think there's a subtle sort of shift in sort of what people are seeking and what candidates can also do.
Yeah, I'll probably just add to that with a couple of points. I think the first point is because there are so many different companies sort of building at different stages, right? I mean, you have like the Binance of the world where it's sort of at a very, established state. The Coinbase of the world, I think those are like what we call, for lack of a better word, like the more stable company at this point. And then you have those really fast growing, evolving DeFi protocols and like, layer ones that's growing very rapidly. And so I think it's very important to first understand how can you best contribute or value add to this organization. So if you are someone with like 15, 20 years of sales or BD experience or product experience, going into the likes of Binance and Coinbase, where maybe the rewards are not as high, but the risk is also a lot lower, right? Because and those organizations will value the kind of stability that you provide to an organization, because they are probably at that stage of their life cycle where they are thinking about stability, they are thinking about getting the right people who have gone through that fintech journey and adding that stability. But again, going in also means that you're not going to get that 100x sort of like reward that maybe a much younger startup could afford. So I think it's really about trying to figure out your strengths, weaknesses, and then leveraging on that to find the right fit for you, to find the right role for you within the different verticals and within the different streams. And I think the second point is, as with everything Web3, it's all very decentralized. So it doesn't mean to say that you have to. And I think that's where the mindset shift is also happening, where sometimes it's not so much about I need to, if I want to join Web3, I need to quit my job and I need to, find a full-time role at Web3. I think it's really about starting small, contributing to some of these DAOs or like, some of these NFT projects, and then slowly leveraging a way up, right? And sometimes even for myself at CMC, like I was holding my day job at CoinMarketCap. I was investing, advising on the side, and just helping different projects because I just want to know more about what's happening in the space. And also, I think that's where it will eventually. I do think that eventually, from an employer perspective, working multiple different projects or working on different things at the same time is not going to penalize you in any way. If anything, it's probably going to make you stand out from the other competitors or from the other like applicants who maybe just have one day job, because that shows how much of a hustler you are to really want to make to really want to contribute to the space itself. And because most of this, and I think the top point is really about decentralization, right? I think the beauty about building in Web3 is that a lot of these companies are located, don't even have an office space to begin with, right? They're all working remotely. It could probably be fueled because of COVID, but at the same time, it shows you that working in Web3 doesn't need you to relocate to a place to work in it, right? I think, I can't remember, like Kraken or Gemini recently closed down their SF headquarters. And like, I think it just shows that even in a much more established organization, it can happen, much less to a much younger startup in that sense. So don't need to be restricted and bounded by the fact that, I need to maybe relocate somewhere where the company is to sort of work in it. I think everyone is very comfortable working in a decentralized manner. There are tools, there are software, there are communication channels that allows for asynchronous sort of communication to happen. And I think that sort of laid a foundation for you to actually go into Web3. Yeah.
And I think there's a whole bunch of companies, right, that are trying to build, who are trying to formalize this a little bit more, right? So I think you're already seeing it on the technical side. So if you're a developer, right, or a product manager, you can take roles within certain protocols and get paid for them, right, without obviously being formally hired. And I think that's gonna spread too. Obviously, it always starts on the deep tech, because that's where the most pressing sort of need for talent is. But I've already seen companies that are trying the same thing on the marketing side, design side. So I think this won't be for everybody, but as Shaun said, there'll be a way you can dip your toes in or potentially do multiple different jobs at the same time. But I don't think it's really come through yet. But in the next couple of years, I think it's going to be a lot bigger than it already is now.
Actually, just a trivia, right? CoinMarketCap released this report called The Great Web3 Talent Migration. Happy to send it to the group here as well. And so they looked at the most searched job in Web3, and number 2 is intern. So I guess it's interesting. It goes back to your point, Shaun and Jon, about, I mean, you don't have to necessarily be working. You could be an intern, and an intern could be a paid intern or not a paid intern, just to learn about and take on different projects. So I was very shocked to see that today, actually, that the second most searched role after marketing, I think, was intern for Web3 companies. So I think that relates to what the two of you have shared. I'm just looking at the time, and I'm wondering if, I think there are probably 1 or 2 other questions on my mind, but just want to open the floor as well, and wondering if, and I don't think there's a need to, we're a small group here, don't think there's a need to pop in the chat. Maybe you can just unmute yourself and ask Shaun or Jon, any pressing question that's on your mind. Does anybody want to go first?
Yeah, hi, can I ask a question?
Sure, Jerry, go ahead.
Yeah, this is for both, or for anyone who wants to answer. I'm still learning, and I find it's overwhelming to try to keep up with everything. Do you have any advice on how to slowly zoom in and exclude things to increase focus? Because I'm sure there's infinite number of news sources around, and I'm gonna struggle. Any recommended publications or newsletters to follow? Thank you.
Yeah, I can probably go first on this. So I think it's a very common thing, right? I think everyone's just drawn by so much information that's happening in the space right now. And I think a lot of chatters is actually happening on Twitter, right? So I think one of the trick that I learned is to join a couple of these like Telegram channels that sort of curate Twitter updates for you. So I think the Daily Ape by Darren Lau is probably one of those, right? And I think what it does is that now my first go-to point isn't like Twitter directly, because chances are you're going to see the same type of news happening because of the algorithm. You're going to see the same type of news that's happening as you scroll like a few times. So actually go to like Darren Lau's Telegram channel first, where I click on the first link and then I read the article. I go back to Telegram and I read the second article, and very quickly within like 10 minutes you sort of get a good digest of what's happening in the space. I think that's one way. I haven't found the right trick on Discord yet because it's just so messy at this point, and I sort of lost track of it. But at least that's what I do with like if you just want to balance like Telegram versus Twitter. And I think on Darren Lau's channel, he also sort of creates some articles that's on Medium and stuff. So I think those are good sort of ways for you to I think John shared another article. So I think that's sort of a trick that I use that actually helped me sort of make things a lot more concise and speed up my learning process.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And it's interesting because I've got friends of mine who are trying to start media companies doing crypto to, the guys who are running crypto companies, emails and such, and they don't read them, right? They're just so busy. Whereas I know that some of the Telegram bots, they do actually read. So there's like 5 or 6 that most people on my team read. And I think that's, like Shaun said, it's a much easier way. You can sort of check it here and there, right? So that's much easier. And I think just in terms of information, right? And you're absolutely right, it's overwhelming. There's a whole lot out there. There's so many different chains, right? At times it feels like they're doing exactly the same thing. So for me, like I started off by focusing on the stuff that was most interesting to me personally. And then once I felt like I had a decent, sort of a knowledge or an understanding of it, then I would look at something else and go like piece by piece. Because like I say, I think if we're being truthful, nobody in crypto knows everything, right? And they're always learning about something else. There's always a new chain coming out or new protocols. So I think it's okay to know that you don't know everything, but to just like to go piece by piece, right? So start by learning about DeFi or Ethereum chains or whatever, and then go on from there. Like that's what I would say.
It's excellent. Thank you very much.
Thanks both panelists. I assume I can just pump in another 2 questions, right, Elena?
Just jump in. Yes, please.
Perfect. So I have 1 question for Shaun and 1 question for Jon. Firstly, thank you for the sharing. I think question for Jon is, question for Shaun is around projects. I think just now you mentioned one way you can get exposure is by joining different projects. I'm curious for non-technical folks, say your banking consulting types, what kind of projects do you think are most suitable for us to contribute to? So that's a question for Shaun. And then question for Jon. Jon, since you invest in the crypto space, I'm curious what your investment thesis is. Do you have a particular area that you're particularly bullish on, say, or layer ones or bridges or whatsoever? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I can probably go first on the first question. So I think there's really a few ways, right? I mean, at the end of the day, when you think about a project, it's just like any other companies, there will be different sort of skill sets required. If you're not a technical person, there's like marketing, there's community outreach, there's BD, there's like, research and stuff. So, and when you talk about like consulting, sort of banking background, I think a research sort of scenario coming when you think about a project, whether it's an NFT project or like a GameFi project, there will be research being done on like competitive landscape, on what some of the other competitors are doing in terms of their tokenomics, the way they think about, the emission schedules and like basically anything with regards to like their tokens and stuff. So there are, and these are ways that you can actually help contribute from a research standpoint that really goes back to like, just having a good understanding of the business model itself, which I think banking consulting sort of teaches you. So I think it's really about playing to your skill sets. And if you are more on the marketing front, then spend more time in Discord, helping to moderate conversations, doing marketing, doing community outreach. I think those are things that you guys can focus on at the same time, or even just helping to facilitate or take notes, doing meetings and stuff, right? I think these are like basic stuff that anyone could have done also. So I think it's really about trying to find out what you're most comfortable with, and then, spreading your time across different projects so that you get a bit more exposure into all these different projects at the same time. Yeah.
I mean, just adding in there, that's not a question for me. Like, we've been hiring marketing people, and we're looking for people who have a really solid background and experience, and also understand crypto. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have been in DAOs. I think it's a bit, like I say, it's more challenging right now because those DAOs are mostly focused on like technical talent currently. So it's quite tricky. But for us, it's like if a person has put their own money into crypto, they have some stories about crypto, they can even explain to us, what got them into crypto. That's oftentimes that's a great story where you can tell, okay, this person's very curious, they want to learn, right? These are the kind of things that we're looking for. And if you obviously have some solid experience working at other places, then that's also great too. On the investment side, yeah, I thought I was going to get a difficult question asked to me tonight. The answer is like, I'm still figuring it out. Most of the deals that I've done so far have been founders that have been outside of the crypto space, who are either pivoting their companies or changing their business to add crypto. So that's probably because most of my networks are predominantly outside of the crypto space in terms of the founders that I know. Obviously, the VCs that we know and we're tight with are already in the crypto area. So for me personally, like, there's a bunch of folks who are doing their first crypto companies. Oftentimes it was like a side project. There's a few that were COVID babies, right? Where there were folks who are already entrepreneurs that are already working in tech. They started doing these projects during COVID and they actually took off. And then that's where they're looking for a fund that can help them to grow, offer them, the kind of consulting experience that we've got. So it's probably a bit too early for me, but I get really excited where there's really solid founders who are really passionate about what they're doing. And they've also either built a company previously, or they've built a company that's already got, traction with their product, and they want to integrate crypto or want to pivot their business. So a bit of a crappy answer from me, but those are the deals that I've done so far.
Okay, so maybe I think we probably have time for one more question. Anyone has any burning questions?
Scott here. I think I just have a question that I sometimes struggle with a bit myself. I just want to get your thoughts, which is that at least over the past 2 years, there's been so much opportunity in crypto. And the awesome thing about crypto is that it's decentralized, right? There are no barriers to entry for the retail investor. You just find the contract and open MetaMask and you can ape in. So something that I do struggle with quite often is there's so much opportunity, and it feels like I really want to focus on investing, right? As opposed to, when you have a day job, you have your roles and responsibilities, you have people that report to you, you have people that you provide guidance to, and kind of those take your time and resources away from something that could be, for lack of a more PC way of saying it, very personally and materially directly enriching. So just curious, how do you kind of manage that?
Well, then you can go first. It's a good question, actually.
Yeah, it is. I think it really boils down to two things, right? One, it's how repeatable is that process of trying to find great companies and investing in it. So I think I think especially at this, I mean, if you're talking about 2021, for sure, yeah, there's a lot of opportunities that's happening in the space, and you could make a lot of money out of it. But the point is also how repeatable over the next couple of years is that process going to be like. So I think it's something that you have to be very mindful of. I mean, you quit your job and you do it for a year or two, but when the sort of the market, I would say when the market sort of becomes at a more steady state, maybe in the next couple of years, you want to make sure that your skill set is still relevant and that you are still employable to a certain extent, right? So I think that sort of leads into my next point, which is at this point, there's so much capital chasing after like all these different projects at this point in time. I think what it's more important for me is to spend that same amount of time really up-leveling yourself in terms of how do you want to contribute to the space, because I think especially when now the space is still at such a nascent state that you want to make sure that you are actively contributing to the whole ecosystem itself. And I think that's a more to me, that's a more scalable process of like, eventually reaching your goal, whether it's being rich, being financially stable, or, just doing a great job at investing. But I think at this point, if you spend most of your time like just purely doing research and investing on it, you could have a very myopic view of like, okay, this is what I'm going to do versus what the industry could be, going forward. So I think number one is just, so sort of just to recap, it's how repeatable is that process, right? How many times are we going to get a 2021 where, everyone who put in money in the beginning of the year, turn out financially well, right? I don't think it's going to happen in 2022. And so your question is, if you quit your job in 2021, you'll be stuck in 2022 thinking, what is next, right? How do I get back to my job? And number two, it's rather than spend that time on like trading and like speculation at this point, which I have no doubt, I think there's still a lot of speculation in the space. It's really about how do you create value for yourself such that you could contribute to the space over a long period of time. And that means really understanding the different technologies, understanding the different projects that's building, understanding where the gaps are in the space, and maybe building, maybe contributing, maybe value adding to it, but not so much from a pure capital, from the way I sort of frame it, maybe just to make it simpler, is think of yourself more as, are you going to be a value creator or value extractor at this point in time, right? And I feel like for an ecosystem to thrive, we need both, but it's just about which toggle do you want to optimize for at different point in time. I feel like now there needs to be more value creator rather than value extractor. And if you're on the right side of the equation, then over the long run, you're going to be a lot more secure in terms of, it's a much more scalable process to being successful down the road. Yeah.
So in my opinion, if you're trading as a job, I think that's incredibly tough. I've got some friends who do that. I wouldn't want to do it, right? I actually think my job is way more fun than trading. So for me, like, I would happily, like, perhaps not really be as rich, but to actually have a job that's really fun, where I get out of bed in the morning and I'm excited. And I think that's the thing, is we hire folks who are really passionate about the job. And I think everybody on our team is buying crypto, is curious about crypto, is doing research, because you kind of have to be, right? Otherwise, why else are you there? So I think you can actually do both. I think day trading anyway is really tough. This year it's going to be really hard, because I think everyone knows the markets are down, right? But for us, like, all of the young folks on our team and the older folks too, like, we will have like projects that we're keen on, where we sort of buy it, we sort of own some of them, or there's NFTs, and there's a lot of like communication of like sharing. So I think you can actually do both, but you probably can't do the kind of crazy trading that some people do. But as I say, like, for me, like, that's not really a fun job. And I've seen friends who've made loads of money, and then that, as and when the market turns, they've lost a lot of money. And I think that's really hard as a job. So, but I'd say, like, if you're working in a crypto company, you're going to just be like naturally learning about projects and about tokens, talking to other people. So you're gonna get that level of experience. You're going to grow your understanding of the space. And if you're curious enough, you're probably going to buy tokens too, right? So I think that you actually can do both.
Scott, I hope that answers your questions.
No, those are fantastic answers. Thanks both. Yeah, very helpful.
So we've kind of run out of time a bit, but I guess before we leave the call, just if Jon and Shaun can give like the one biggest tip, for any job seeker that's looking to. I know there's a lot of sharing already, but if there's one remaining big tip, what would that be for anyone looking to join the space?
I think for me, it's just, you gotta be on Twitter. I regret not being on Twitter early enough, and I think because of that, you miss out on so much, information and market insights, or just the amount of information or research being shared by everyone in the crypto Twitter space. So if you don't have a Twitter account at this point, or you're not yet on Twitter, I think that's like my biggest advice. Is get on it. Follow a couple of people. You can follow me, of course. Need to grow my following count, but yeah, I think
shameless plug. Shameless plug.
And Jon,
I think for me, like, the only risk in life is that you don't to do something, right? And for me, like, it's always, if there's an opportunity to do something that's weird, and as long as it's not too crazy, like I said, like I had the chance to go work in crypto in 2017. I wasn't quite sure about it, right? So I didn't take that jump. But I mean, the reality is, like, if you've been working for some time, or you've got an MBA, or whatever you've done, right? There's always other companies that will take you if you go into crypto and you don't think that it suits you. But if you never take that leap, and you never apply for roles or ask people out for coffee or go to events, then you're never going to really know, right? So for me, it's always like just staying curious and just being, keen to get outside of your comfort zone is what I've always done. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you to both. And interesting that Jon shared his LinkedIn profile, Web2, and Shaun shared his Twitter profile, Web3. So there's a bit of both.
You can also follow me on Twitter if you like. Yeah.
Jon probably has too much followers on Twitter. He doesn't need that.
And just a bit of plug as well. You can follow us at Talent at Web3. We'll drop the link later as well, because we're going to be sharing a lot more. We're going to be having a lot more events, and that could contribute towards your understanding of the space. But before we go, if everyone can, is it comfortable for everyone to switch on the video, and we can just take a group shot before we say goodbye? Okay. Oh, super. So hang on. I'm gonna 3, 2, 1. Super. So thank you so much. This is our first so-called virtual roundtable, and we're really super stoked to have Shaun and Jon share so much, and all of you with your fantastic questions. We hope to see you at some of our other events, and if not, have a good evening. Thank you so much. See y'all.
Thanks everyone. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Cheers. Bye.
Bye. Cheers.
Thanks, Elena. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh, Curve and I are staying on, right? Yep. Okay. Okay, just the two of us.
It was very cool.
Yeah, but we thought there'll be, oh my gosh, we thought there'll be, the dropout rate is amazing. It's like
all the people that you invited.
No, even the last minute people who were like so interested to come. I think only that Natalie and the other guy, I don't know, CK or something. I'm not sure. I think he was one of the last minute ones. I don't know, but there were a few others who were so interested, like pinging me nonstop, right? And then distracting me from my 100. It's like, and then they didn't turn up today. So I'm like, we're messed up.